Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me, as always, is Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown! How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Recording on a Monday. It was a reasonably well-paced Monday for myself. It was okay. It had no real hiccups, so that's good. It's a good thing. And we're podcasting. We're podcasting with the aid of 21st century optics, and we can see each other over the interwebs, which is pretty fascinating. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're still getting used to this newfangled technology thing, but it is very cool. It's very cool. I think I actually commented on it on our episode that we did with our first go-around with the webcams, but it was a very different feel, honestly, just even going back and listening to it. I think I picked up on it in the moment, but having listened to it, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, it's a bit of a different thing, which is cool. So
it's a little bit more conversational, right?
Yeah, it felt like a little bit more personal, like maybe less moments of you drifting off into hyperspace, and maybe a little bit more engaged. I mean, I'm not pointing the finger at you. I mean, I'm literally pointing a finger at you now.
Well, I mean, sometimes, there's a tendency to do this right here.
Yeah, it's okay. I understand, because I have a tendency to go into long monologues, and I totally understand. Like, I don't know how, like, you're the one that's supposed to be listening to me. I'm not even sure how our listeners are like, they probably tune out at some point, too. Maybe they're tuning out right now.
It's a little bit more engaging.
Yeah. There's a little bit of an interactive element to the podcast that hopefully we'll try to get the listeners in on that at some point. But we're
setting goals. 2019. By the end of 2019, you will be able to see these recordings.
We've got a whole year to accomplish it. I appreciate.
Yeah, my loose guidelines. Yeah, I've been set to be in charge of the video recordings. So. We'll see what happens. We will make slow but incremental steps to do this. The first thing I think that is mandatory for the video recordings is for us to get a hang on how to drive the conversation and everything else. We're still acclimating to looking at each other on a recording basis. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, it adds something new to the table. So yeah, exactly. Absolutely. We're still getting used to it. Even 70 plus episodes in, we've got to hand ourselves some challenges to work through. So here we are. And we're talking about our first movie of 2019. We're finally properly getting into some new movies that have come out this year. And we're starting with Glass. A little January debut, a completion to M. Night Shyamalan's superhero, but maybe not superhero trilogy. And
maybe not.
We're actually going to be covering the entire trilogy to some extent. I think we're gonna devote, I think, the bulk of our main content for the episode to Glass, because it is the new release, and in some cases, some of these movies have been around for almost 20 years. But we will be talking about Unbreakable and Split, the other two entries into that trilogy, as we get into things. But it's a return to the regular format. I think that's probably the important thing to note, which of course means that Andrew has a fun fact ready for our listeners, doesn't he?
I do, actually.
There was a moment of panic on your face, but I think you've got this.
I got it. So my fun fact is the original movie in this trilogy is called Unbreakable, starring Bruce Willis, and there was M. Night Shyamalan made a movie called Split some odd years after. It was a significant amount of time. But it was apparently, according to this Wikipedia thing I'm reading here, it was Hollywood's first stealth sequel. Like, it wasn't advertised as a sequel, and if you watch the movie, it was very loosely a sequel. You know what I mean? There was minimal callbacks to the Unbreakable movie. So anyways, with this movie coming out, Glass, they've apparently writers and fans, quote unquote, from the Wikipedia page, refer to the series as the Eastrail 177 trilogy. That's my fun fact. This is actually a trilogy that has a title called the Eastrail 177 trilogy. We were debating on naming the podcast that episode, but
Well, I don't think many people are aware that that's what the trilogy is called.
And that's why it's my fun fact. It's totally like a little fact.
Well, and so now they're aware of it. But unfortunately, we can't go back and title the episode that because they wouldn't understand until they listened to it and got to that point. It's only a few minutes in, mind you, but it breaks the whole thing. So
that's it.
I think
now
it's also
the masses know.
I think it's worth noting, too, that there is a big piece of continuity between all three movies, and that they are all written and directed entirely by one M. Night Shyamalan.
And M. Night Shyamalan actually self-funded these movies. Did you know about that?
Is that true for Unbreakable as well?
I don't know.
I don't think it is. I think Unbreakable had a significantly higher budget than the rest. I think it was around $75 million, of which probably a quarter of that went to Bruce Willis alone, because that was when he wasn't just taking any old acting role for a paycheck.
Stop it! Get off Bruce Willis.
Well, I can say I definitely, at least as far as Split and Glass are concerned, they were much smaller on the budgetary scale, and they were both Blumhouse Productions, who are a production house very famous for kind of their low budget, like mostly horror entries, kind of designed to do a lot with a little, and sometimes you can turn around and make a lot of money off of that. So, that's a good fun fact to bring in 2019 officially. So thank you for that. Let's talk some news for this week. What do you got on tap?
Ooh, you're gonna make me switch. All right. So news. I'm gonna start with Resident Evil. Yeah, there you go. Much better. We're getting a Netflix series.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently we're also going to be getting a potential reboot directed by Johannes Roberts, whose name does not... I actually pulled up his IMDb page. He's known for 47 Meters Down and Storage 24 and Dark Hunters. Critically acclaimed films. Anyways, so we're getting a Netflix series. That's exciting. Another little fun factoid, because I think all the current Resident Evil movies suck ass.
Hold on. We can't just go around dropping hot takes like that.
Is that a hot take?
No, it's not. It is the coldest take possible. Those movies are absolute dog shit.
Okay,
have
good.
Always
all
been,
right.
Continue to be. But I guess is I don't know if this is your fun fact or not. But I mean, with the Netflix show and the potential reboot, that would signal an end to that horrific franchise, right?
Unless Mila Jovovich shows up. Mila.
I think Mila, yeah, and her husband, who keeps hiring her to be in the same fucking Resident Evil movies.
Wouldn't you hire your wife?
Funny how that works. If I had a wife, maybe.
Well, anyways, the fun fact is all 6 of those Resident Evil shit movies, cumulatively, they're the highest grossing film series based on a video game, which, to be fair, there's not a lot of movie franchises based on video games.
Well, that, and how many have reached 6 entries? 6? Is there only 6? Man, it felt like a lot more than that. I was going to question you on that, but it's in the legit article, so I'm assuming it's true.
$1.2 billion.
Man, that's crazy. I mean, I like the Resident Evil franchise as much as the next guy. Maybe even more than the next guy, depending on who I'm sitting to. I'm virtually sitting next to you, but yeah, like the video games are very hit and miss, I think. But they have at least
good entries, though.
They've at least had the opportunity to hit, whereas I think the film franchise has floundered around. Like it was okay at best with the first one, and it was progressively worse as it went on.
Right.
Whereas I think there's ebbs and flows with the game franchise. 4, I remember we had, I think it was a spring break many years ago where we like just plowed through Resident Evil 4.
I think that was the best spring break of my entire life.
That's one of the fondest like video game related memories I think I have, because it was a ton of fun, and I think that's a legitimately great video game. So yeah, I mean, so your fun fact was that the franchise had made over $1 billion. Is that more or less the bottom line?
$1.2 billion, which I guess
that's crazy.
Which is 200. I mean, if you were to average it out, it was what, $2 million a movie?
Yeah, 200 million. Yeah,
200 million a movie. Yeah, which is It's kind of.
I mean that's still not bad for what our rated R movies. You know what I mean?
Rated R video game
it's
movie?
really
Right.
it's really not too bad. But
especially considering, I mean, from every entry from 2 to 6 was dog shit.
yeah,
Like the first
like
one
I
was
said,
cool. They had people getting chopped in half by laser
it
beams
wasn't
and stuff.
it
That was
wasn't
all right.
good, but it was fine. It was like the Transformers equivalent. I think it's actually had probably a fairly similar trajectory to Transformers, aside from I guess the 6th film, which if you count Bumblebee as the 6th film, very much departs from that logic. But yeah, I mean, I will say the thing that scares me about the Resident Evil TV series that they announced for Netflix, like Netflix Resident Evil, totally cool. It sounds great. Sign me up. Maybe it can be the zombie show that Walking Dead wishes it was. Maybe, but it's still coming from Constantine Film. It's the same like studio that worked on those films, and I'm like, they had the wherewithal to make 6 movies with the same hack director, same shitty cast, same shitty screenwriters.
And now they're hiring this guy, the guy for the movie.
I'm putting the potential reboot to the side. Like, why should I put my faith in this company that clearly didn't know how to get things right 6 times in a row? Like I said, it's not impossible. Transformers righted the ship after 5 entries, but I don't know. It's hard. I think it's appropriate to be skeptical at this point.
Maybe Netflix
Does that
says,
seem
"Hey,
fair?
listen, no, definitely seems fair." But we'll see. I mean, you have to have high hopes. You have to have hope. Okay, hope gets you through.
I will give it a chance. I'm not going to say that I have high hopes because I think that invites the possibility that I'll be disappointed.
And knowing,
so I'll say that I'll give it a chance because like Castlevania was on Netflix. That's based off a video game franchise, and it's great.
And it was excellent.
I think this is a live action take, and there are other elements to be considered. But at the same time, there's no reason you cannot make an excellent like Resident Evil focused television show. It's absolutely in the cards. So hopefully we get that. Hopefully.
We'll see it.
And that's I think that's all there is to say on the Resident Evil.
Yeah.
The Resident Evil.
What's the shopware say? What's the shop say?
What's that shop say?
Mini wares. So what's he say?
What are you buying? What are you selling? Got good things on sale here, stranger.
That's it.
Something like that. It's been a few years. It
was such a good thing to see that guy, though. That guy was always a nice thing to see. Anyways, I digress. Moving on.
Yes. I have good news in the form of not 1, but 2. Count them, 2 Mission Impossible films heading your way.
Damn.
With of course Tom Cruise attached to headline both, and I think we expect Tom Cruise to come back. I mean, really the biggest question is, all right, is his hair going to be long? Is it going to be short? I don't know. We'll have to find out. Maybe since they're doing 2, he'll kind of change it up between movies. We'll see. But I think the real exciting thing about this news is that Christopher McQuarrie, who directed both Rogue Nation and Fallout, is coming back for both of these entries. He's going to write and direct both, and they're going to be filmed back to back. So
potential
we're expecting it's like an
like
Avengers type thing.
Part 1, Part 2 kind of
Well,
deal?
yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could be. I assume that it'll probably be somewhat connected because of that nature. But I think in the way that Avengers Infinity War still, even though it ended obviously in the way that it did, I think it still stands on its own as like a movie. It's not like a ... There's an element of a ... to it, but it's not literally like, oh my God, there's literally no resolution to this. The resolution of that movie is Thanos won. He gets his moment of happiness.
That's it, right.
So I think even if it does end on somewhat of a dark or dour note or anything like that, then it'll still be something.
We've never had a Mission Impossible where Ethan Hunt didn't do what he needed to do.
Yeah, he always pulls it out. Maybe he'll finally encounter the impossible mission. That'd be kind of cool. That's good. Yeah, that's a good call. Summer 2021 and summer 2022 is when these 2 are expected to premiere. Right. And I don't think we have much details on it because I imagine that McQuarrie really hasn't started writing anything in earnest, but I think it's a fair bet to expect some of the main players to come back. I think we can expect, Ving Rhames to come back. Leggy Bay, Rebecca Ferguson seems like she'd be a good candidate to come back. Jeremy wasn't in the last one, so it seems like he'd be a good candidate to come back.
Okay, Jeremy Renner's, yeah. Absolutely.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, it's 2 movies to play with. Maybe we'll even get some of the forgotten cast. Maybe that fucking Australian guy from the second one will be back. He won't be, but he could. Assuming that actor is still alive. I'm sure he is, but I actually don't know that for a fact.
What about his girlfriend from the second one?
Oh, they could bring back Tanya Newton. As long as she's not busy filming that Westworld action, then yeah,
bring her back.
They could do it. Bring back.
She can get kind of jealous over Leggy Bay, or maybe his actual wife.
Maggie Q, Paula Patton from Ghost Protocol. There's plenty of options. Plenty of options to bring back. Yeah, it'd be very complicated if all the previous love interests came back for Mr. Ethan Hunt. That could be the impossible mission that he's tasked with. You know what I mean?
Ethan Hunt gets around that guy.
So yeah, Mission Impossible. Very excited. I think that's very cool news. What do you got? Anything
yes, I've got some good news. We're getting a Bumblebee sequel.
Bumblebee.
Also, Bumblebee scores over 400 million worldwide, which is more of...
You got like a little double news action?
Little double news action, yeah. I mean, box office is more your thing. It is. There is there's a little bit of double, there's triple news here, actually. We're getting a sequel in development for Bumblebee, which is
very
good.
Cool. Okay.
And we're also getting some sort of animated movie. Which is also pretty exciting. I'd take an animated Transformers. I'd get the fuck into that anime. If it's an anime. Is Bumblebee an American property or is that a Japanese property? Do you know?
That's a good question. I believe it's an American property that was somewhat adapted from Japanese toys. I think there was like Japanese like transforming
Hasbro,
toys.
Right? Is it a Hasbro thing?
Yeah, I think Hasbro kind of like basically, I don't know if they... there's literally an episode on Transformers and the Toys That Made Us, the Netflix documentary, so I've seen this probably within the past year, but I think if I recall correctly, it was a Japanese transforming toy that Hasbro purchased a license or the rights to, and then when I think the cartoon or the comic book, whichever one came first, came out, they basically invented all the characters and personalities and stuff like that, and then it kind of morphed into this mega franchise from that point on, took over the 80s.
So the actual the characters themselves and stuff, that's an American thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think the franchise itself could be said to be an American property.
Yeah, all right then. Well, I guess it won't be an anime, but if it was an anime, I'd be all about it.
Yeah.
Anyways, if it's in a regular cartoon, I would take the cartoon too. So whatever. I'm excited about the animated feature, to say the least, and I'm very much excited about a sequel to Bumblebee. Also, kudos to 400 million worldwide. That's awesome. It means it has legs, right?
Let's recap here. We got a triple news of $400 million worldwide. That's part one.
That's part one,
if you will.
That's right.
Okay. Prong 2, Bumblebee sequel.
Correct.
Prong 3, animated movie.
Bingo. All the news.
I like it.
Snuck them in.
Very cool.
Much like
Very
Deadline.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but apparently there's some speculation in that Deadline article about the sequel that it might be a Bumblebee Optimus Prime buddy movie.
It's kind of given, though, given the
way that it ended. They were
it ended with all the Autobots, so it's probably all his buddies, right?
Yeah,
or not all of them, but 8 of them or 9 of them or however many landed.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
that sounds very good to me. Well, I don't know if this next piece of news sounds good. I'm divided on it. I have two minds. So Uncharted, we're talking about video game franchises apparently this episode. So Uncharted, another video game franchise, favorite of mine, the PlayStation classic with Nathan Drake and Sully Sullivan and all those classic
excellent
characters.
Already, quote unquote, is almost a very, very movie-like video game.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So I mean, Sony's been trying to get a film adaptation of the franchise off the ground for years. At one point, Marky Mark was set to star as Nate Drake, and then there was the little fan film. I think was it last year with Nathan Fillion as Drake.
That was cool.
That wasn't like an officially sanctioned thing, but it was kind of like a hey, look what we could do kind of thing. Well, anyway, they're making a movie. Or at least they're planning on making a movie. One of the directors that's been attached, Sean Levy, has departed the project because of scheduling conflicts, but Sony has found a replacement for him in Dan Trachtenberg, who directed 10 Cloverfield Lane a few years back, which was a damn fine film, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, no, it was really good. What else has he done, though? Do you know? Or
is that is a good question. I think he was kind of one of those guys that had like one movie under his belt prior to that, if that. Like maybe it was like a short film or something like that, or like he wasn't.
Because I think you could take the 10 Cloverfield Lane treatment and apply it to the first one. Because the first one had like the supernatural thing with the whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Was it the first one that had the U-boat zombies and stuff?
Yeah, that was the first one.
Okay. I didn't play a lot after that, to be fair. I think I played the first one. I think that was another spring break thing, wasn't it?
I don't know. I've played the first one so many times at this point that it's probably all kind of blurred together for me. But I've beaten at least through 3. I played part of 4. I played part of the Vita one. Remember the PlayStation Vita?
Yeah, where you got to rub the back of it and stuff.
Yeah. Golden Abyss, I think that one. And then I think The Lost Legacy, which was like the DLC turned like spin-off type video game from 4 for the PlayStation 4
I haven't
as well.
played any of those. I'm so far behind.
So there's a lot to catch up on. But I think the thing with this movie is that it is seemingly going. I don't know what continuity they're trying to set up here, but Tom Holland, Spider-Man himself, is going to be Nathan Drake, which, based on his age, very much implies that they're going for either a prequel to the games or something with a young Drake, maybe with the potential that, hey, if we make this into an Indiana Jones type franchise,
right,
this guy's going to be young enough that we can pump out 20 years worth of sequels with him.
I think he's got the he's kind of got that like that personality and flair that a Nathan Drake could have.
Yeah, I could definitely see it. I said it's an interesting angle. I reserve judgment to see on which approach they go with. Sounds like you didn't play Uncharted 3, but there was the prologue in that game was like a young Drake who's kind of like, his first encounter with Sully and all that stuff. So they could kind of riff on that if they wanted to.
Fun fact, one of my favorite Black Mirror episodes was directed by this guy.
That's right. Okay, yeah. So I was looking at that at the bottom of this article, Playtest with Wyatt Russell.
Yeah, that was a really fun episode. I really liked that one a whole lot.
So it seems like a pretty good resume. No, that was season 3. I didn't make it to season 3 of Black Mirror. Okay. Not yet. So
that one's one of my favorites. It's real good, really good.
Video game franchises have their problems, as we've discussed at length now with Resident Evil. But I think the bottom line is, seems like they've got a talented director on board. It seems like they've got. Well, I know they got a talented actor in Tom Holland on board, so yeah,
it could be good. It could be good.
Could be something. Absolutely. Did you hear about this stealth Ghostbusters sequel? I mean, maybe this is another.
No, I heard about it.
Sort of stealth sequel, not quite in the sense that they just dumped it in theaters or anything like that, but it was just kind of an out of nowhere thing of like. Boom, Ghostbusters 3. The real Ghostbusters 3 is happening or whatever.
The lady.
Right, Leslie Jones from the 2016 reboot, whatever it was intended to be.
Yeah, she was not pleased. She was not pleased, no.
She seemed like it took it as like a very personal affront. Like,
which
it wasn't her fault that, I mean...
Maybe
I think that the backlash to that movie was pretty horrific because people hated that movie because it was Ghostbusters with women, and that like offended people to their core, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah, if you want to reboot the thing, you want to reboot it, that's cool.
Right. I think the problem with that movie is it wasn't particularly funny and it wasn't particularly well made.
No.
And I can say that having seen the movie. So I can attest to the fact
never
that
saw it. I don't know. It didn't look very appealing.
It just wasn't a good movie. There was nothing wrong with the cast. There was nothing wrong with anything. It was just like, it wasn't a good movie. If you want it. So I think that the whole issue of like, Leslie Jones getting offended by the fact that they're switching gears, instead of doing a Ghostbusters 2 that's a sequel to that and being like, look, we're going to go back to the original universe. Like, I think that's a natural response. Like I said, I think the backlash was overblown and totally ridiculous, but at the same time, like if you're a movie studio and your movie didn't do very well, wasn't very well received, why are you going to make more of that? Like, no,
right?
That's a waste of money. So, anyway, just to kind of recap the events of what happened with this movie, and get away from that other Ghostbusters movie. This is a movie coming in July 2020, and it is supposed to take place in the original Ghostbusters universe. And I don't know exactly how that's going to work, but it's going to be co-written and directed by Jason Reitman, who is the son of the director of the first Ghostbusters, Ivan Reitman, which is kind of a cool connection there. But there's obviously some logistical hurdles to this. I mean, I think it's going to have to be some sort of passing of the torch type storyline. Because Harold Ramis is no longer with us, so we're missing a fifth of the Ghostbusters. That's a pretty big deal. I don't know what Dan Aykroyd's doing these days, but he'll probably show up. But I don't know if you can count on like the original cast to really show up for this.
Do you need to have the remaining original cast? Do you need to have the original cast?
You don't. You absolutely don't. But I think if you're going to set it in the original universe, it would almost make sense to at least have one of them, I would say.
Yeah, and
someone's got to show
something. Yeah, right. I got you.
I assume it'll probably take place in the modern day, but I think you need some sort of tangible connection there.
Right.
They did put out like a very short teaser for it. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, it was. So it was. I think it seems like it was more just like test footage type thing, but it had the classic Ghostbusters score, and it was basically like an abandoned building, and you kind of slowly zoom in, and then some proton packs going off, and then you see there's like wind that picks up like there's like a sheet over some sort of vehicle, and lo and behold,
we know what that is.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And it was cool. It was well done, I thought. But I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I think it's cool. With what limited details we have for this, I don't have an issue with them going back to the Ghostbusters universe. I don't have an issue with them turning their back on the other Ghostbusters movie. So my hope is that, again, they keep some elements from the original and bring it into a new generation in the way I think they wanted the other one to, but kind of failed at. I think it could be good. So
we'll see what happens. I don't know. I've never been attached to the Ghostbusters franchise. Is that a It's never been a thing for me.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I love the first two Ghostbusters films. I mean,
is that which one had the Honey I Shrunk the Kids guy?
He's in both.
Is he in both?
Hmm?
The gatekeeper and the
that's the first one is Zool, and are you the gatekeeper? The keymaster and all that. That's the first one. Second one is Vigo the Carpathian. He's the guy in the painting.
Oh yeah, okay, I got you. I remember that.
So the second one's not
Which
great,
one had
but it's still good fun.
the Marshmallow Man?
That's the first one, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the first one's an all-time classic, personally. So I adore the first one.
I need to watch them again because I don't have the sequel or whatever was made with that lady that took offense to them remaking it and kind of shitting on her sequel or whatever. I don't really have any excitement about any of the franchise, so maybe that's because my lack of investment in it. I need to get on it.
Fair enough. Well, that's all I got on Ghostbusters then. Maybe it'd be a good time to revisit them. You got some news.
I got some
news. Tell me what your news is.
Edgar Wright, the gentleman most recently credited for Baby Driver.
He did direct it. Yes.
Outstanding movie. Also known for Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, which were also excellent movies.
And can't forget about The World's End. It's also part of the Cornetto trilogy.
That World's End. Okay. Yep. All those movies. He is gonna be directing a psychological horror film. Supposed to take place in London. And I'm okay with that. I'm actually, do you think, let me ask you this, Baby Driver was self-aware, but it was still very, like a very serious movie, I think, in my opinion. Do you think he's going to just take a hardcore dive into like a hardcore psychological horror film? Or do you think it's going to be like a self-aware experience, kind of like, I think every one of his or something. Every
one of his projects, as far as I can remember, has kind of his unique kind of style to it. So I would imagine that whatever he does, like I imagine it's probably going to be the Edgar Wright template applied to whatever genre he's tackling.
I understand. Okay.
So because I think you can watch an Edgar Wright movie, and even if you didn't know that, if you were familiar with his work, you could probably like 20-30 minutes and be like, this feels like an Edgar Wright movie. I think you can kind of have that
like
that
I
feel
didn't
to
get
it just
Edgar
based on
Wright,
watching it.
I didn't get Edgar Wright until in Baby Driver until the villain started getting over the top.
Okay,
is that fair?
I mean, it's hard for me to say because I knew it was Edgar Wright. Like when I walked in the door.
Okay, fair enough.
So
see, once the villain started to get over the top, I started to feel a little bit more like the humor started to level out. You know what I mean? Like I started to recognize it a little bit more.
Okay, yeah.
But I feel like this guy. I was going to say gentleman. I was going to say this gentleman. Kind of get distinguished on myself while I'm just drinking out of my Chimay glass.
Well, we got to pay respect to our English ancestors, so sure.
That's it. I feel like you can see his sense of style and his just his overall sight for film. I think it's you can see it developing. Like I think Baby Driver was infinitely better than the other movies that came prior to it. Not infinitely, because I really enjoyed those movies, but I do think that I think it's a much more articulated movie. I think it's really good. I really like Baby Driver.
Yeah, I really like Baby Driver. I think that's unnecessarily shitting on what's come before, so I don't agree with that statement.
I don't mean to shit. No shit intended.
Because I don't know. I see. I think thematically, Baby Driver's maybe it's just a different genre, and I really think that's what it is. Like it feels like an Edgar Wright take on like an action type thing. I mean, and I think Shaun of the Dead was his take on zombies. Hot Fuzz was,
but they're straight up over the
crime
top
mystery type
Maybe
thing.
that's what it is. They're just very much comedy films.
Yeah, I think Baby Driver had more of a serious tone overall.
Maybe that's what it is.
Like Scott Pilgrim is just fucking out there, which that was an adapted thing too.
Yeah,
so.
Scott Pilgrim felt very different than those two other movies too. So maybe that's what it is. Because Scott Pilgrim, I revisited the Scott Pilgrim, and that shit is fucking awesome. So good.
Goddamn right it is. I honestly don't think Edgar Wright has put out a bad movie in his entire career. So, needless to say, I don't think that this upcoming psychological horror film that he's working on is going to be any exception to that rule. Anyway, moving on, I do have one last piece of news I want to touch on, and that is the nominations for the 91st Academy Awards. The Oscars have been announced, and I think the results are largely unsurprising. But I feel, having had our conversation about what we thought about 2018, I don't feel too surprised by anything, but I felt like the Academy, at least in terms of the nominations, we can't speak on the winners yet. I feel like they did a pretty good job of kind of capturing at least how I felt.
Right.
And I probably how you felt, because you're quite a big fan of Black Panther.
Yeah.
So leading the pack, The Favorite and Roma scored 10 nominations apiece. So that's quite good for both films. But that's not to say that some other films weren't quite, very dominant in their own respect. Stars Born, Vice have 8 nominations. Vice getting 8 is, it's iffy to me. Black Panther has 7 nominations. Black Klansman with 6. Bohemian Rhapsody with 5 is okay.
More than it deserves is what you're saying.
I don't get it. I straight up just do not get it at this point. But it clearly, I guess maybe I'm the one lagging behind, even though the thing reviewed poorly, and the general consensus I see online is that it wasn't that good of a film. But there's something, I guess, whoever is money hatting the Oscars, because I mean that's really it's all a game of politics with the Oscars. Is you got to campaign for your movies to be recognized, blah 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 blah, which is why you'll find that Hereditary, one movie you liked, scored exactly 0 nominations.
Oh.
So, and it was one of those things where I think A24 just didn't campaign for it. So that's just kind of how
A24 probably doesn't have the fucking money to campaign for it either, right?
They campaigned, I think, something else, but I don't recall what it was. So anyway, I'm curious to see how the results turn out. As long as Bohemian Rhapsody doesn't win Best Picture, I'll be okay with things.
What were the 2 nominated for Film of the Year?
So Best Picture has, I think, 7 or 8 nominees this year. So we got Black Panther nominated for Best Picture. That's pretty cool. Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, Star is Born, and Vice. So, they expanded the Best Picture field a few years back. So some of these probably wouldn't have made the cut otherwise, and I would hope that Bohemian Rhapsody would have been one of those. So,
right.
It's one of those things. It's cool to see some recognition for movies that otherwise wouldn't have probably gotten that. Like, I think Black Panther's probably the one there that people have been kind of pushing for that kind of representation amongst superhero films, and like, hey, if there's any one movie that could really take it into that, then Black Panther was kind of the one that it made sense for. This is all obviously post Dark Knight, which that was where the controversy started of like, hey, why the fuck wasn't this nominated? So,
right.
Overall, like I said, I think it kind of mostly tracks with how I felt about things. Obviously, there's things I didn't see, and sometimes I went out of my way to, talk about movies and recognize movies that I knew weren't going to get like big Oscar recognition, but they're things that just I thought were worth talking about. So when it does come around to airing, I think in February sometime, and without its host because they're too cool for hosts now. No one wants to host and have their Twitter history from 5 years ago revealed to ruin their career. So
I'll host that shit. You call me Oscars, we'll host it.
Well, I don't know.
Watch, review, repeat. We'll host the shit.
People will listen to all of our episodes at that point, and you might have said some illicit things that won't score you any points with the listeners.
That's okay. I'll take the controversy.
All right, well, call them up.
Anyways.
That's the news for this week. I think we can get going on some of our main content. So, like I said at the top, we're going to talk a little bit about Unbreakable and Split before we get going into Glass. But we're going to try to not spend too much time here. We'll see how that actually works out. But let's start with Unbreakable. Obviously, the oldest of these. It actually came out November 22nd of 2000. This is an 18-plus-year-old film. Came out a while ago. Written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, stars Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and Robin Wright. In this, an ordinary man makes an extraordinary discovery when he emerges as the sole survivor of a deadly train accident. Now, this is a almost 20-year-old film. We're going to do full spoilers for this. Sorry for anyone that hasn't watched Unbreakable. I think maybe this is a good time to just go ahead and say, at least in my opinion, Glass makes no fucking sense if you haven't seen either Unbreakable or Split.
No.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're totally right.
Because I hadn't seen Split whatsoever, and I felt like if I had watched Glass without having any context from either film, I would have been just absolutely lost.
You didn't watch Split before you watched Glass?
No, I did, but I'm saying that if I hadn't, that was the first time I watched it, and if I just watched Glass blind,
like who the fuck are these people?
I don't think it would have made a lot of sense. So that's probably a fair point to make now that
you need to be invested.
I would say Unbreakable and Split are honestly required viewing for Glass, just as a precursor to our discussion on Glass anyway. So Unbreakable, I know you've been a big fan of this for quite some time. Am I accurate in saying that?
No, yeah, definitely. I watched this as a kid. A lot. Like, I didn't own a lot of, my parents didn't buy me a lot of movies. Like, I didn't have a lot of movies. Most of the movies I watched were over at your house. And, but I did have a few. I mean, I had all the Star Wars movies and stuff, and I had a few Indiana Jones movies. I mean, I did have a few movies, but Unbreakable was one of those movies where I actually owned that one. And there for a while, it popped up on I can remember watching it on cable television on AMC quite a bit. And every time it was on, I would watch it. And I don't know. I have an affinity for this movie. I really like it. I rewatched it here recently, and I still really liked it. I thought it was a touching movie. I thought that it felt very authentic, and it was very well acted. And I really enjoyed Unbreakable. I don't know how you feel. I'm curious to hear about how you felt about it. Did you revisit it?
Yeah. So I mean, I did rewatch in the case of Unbreakable, or watch for the first time in the case of Split. I properly prepared for going into Glass. So I hadn't seen Unbreakable, and I couldn't tell you how long. Enough to the point where I would honestly say that watching it felt like watching a new movie, because I recalled very little of it other than the broad strokes of it. And I liked this movie. I wasn't blown away. I would say I wasn't blown away by any movie in this trilogy, let me put it that way.
No,
but I think in terms of the M. Night Shyamalan trajectory of film directing,
it's like,
this was
he did really good. He did really good.
Probably the peak for Shyamalan, I would say.
I would agree with that.
It was obviously the early peak because I think he had quite a few hits in a row. I think Sixth Sense was before Unbreakable, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I think that
definitely.
was late 90s. And then there was Unbreakable. And I think Unbreakable was kind of like a refinement of Shyamalan. Like, obviously, like a very, he had this very interesting story to tell, this quote-unquote deconstruction of the superhero genre or whatever.
And before we actually had
right, yeah,
movies,
this is pre-X-Men, pre-Spider-Man, like pre-all those things. Pre-fucking, actually might have been the same year as Blade. No, Blade might have been 01.
But I mean, really, what was Blade? Right.
Right, it was before like the superhero genre kind of hit it big. So it's I guess it's almost less like superhero genre. Like it was, Unbreakable was the only one I think of the trilogy that feels very comic book. Like it's not like superhero that. It's like comic books. Like that's kind of the big thing with it. And I enjoyed that aspect.
He's a guy. He's like a normal fucking dude that has this extraordinary thing pushed on him. And he and with the help of his kid, who's just fucking dumbfounded by his dad's abilities,
rightfully so,
right? But he doesn't believe it. He's skeptical because he's an old man, and he struggles with his fucking relationship with his wife. And there's a lot of complexity to the character, and it feels very, 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 I don't know, just feels very authentic and very It feels less like a superhero movie and more like a drama about a superhero guy, right?
Right, and I think that's kind of what I mean, is that it's not so focused on like the superhero type genre in the way that we understand it to be today. It's just like there's this dramatic story with a backdrop of comic books being part of that. Like being core to Mr. Glass's understanding of the world is like comic books are the way I perceive things. And obviously there's more overt thematic connections in terms of the fact that, well, hey, maybe he does have superpowers after all.
Right.
But yeah, no, I agree. It is, I think it's a very authentic, it's a very real movie. And I think it works because of the performers behind it. I think because it's telling a story that feels, it feels like a good, we use the word grounded so often with like superhero movies now. Like, this is a grounded take on the X-Men or whatever. And I'm like, fuck off. The X-Men aren't grounded. You know what I mean?
This dude is fucking grounded.
But
right.
This is grounded. This feels good. And no, that invites some problems maybe we can get into later, in the sense that, well, is it too grounded in some ways, in the sense that, like Mr. Glass, for example, we'll get into it now. Does he really have a superpower?
He's just a smart fucking guy.
Is that a superpower?
And see that runs that
like you could posit him as a savant type character where he has this major deficiency in the bones. His bones break easily, and so he's just this smart because it kind of counteracts that. But like David Dunn's just kind of dude. He's just a dude, who's pretty strong. We don't really know exactly how strong he is, but he's clearly strong enough to bench like 400,
whatever
350 pounds or whatever. Like that's pretty ridiculous. I ain't going to dispute that.
Survives the train wreck. Can pry open the door on the car.
But, and then his weakness is water.
He drowns.
So, yeah. So, but it is absolutely that grounded take on it. Like, well, I don't know.
How do you define, how would a modern superhero be defined? If somebody was super, what would they be?
It's less like Superman being the overpowered, like, I can fly and shoot lasers out of my eyes, I'm invulnerable, and just more like, no, I'm just super strong. Like, it's a scaled back version of that. Something that, like, Superman breaks the world, literally.
Yeah.
In terms of his power set, whereas a David Dunn is just like, well, people are strong. Or, Mr. Glass is like, well, people are smart. Right. So that tension, I think, is what makes the movie work here, is because it's not so far out there that it's, preposterous to think that this could be real, but it's just enough to think you're like, okay. And I think that's, I think in terms of like just purely in a bubble, Unbreakable, I think works really well on its own because it toes that line. Right. I think it's when you get into Split and Glass that things kind of get little shakier because it's kind of just like, okay, they're treating this as this big fucking deal, even though it's really not.
That defeats the purpose of it. Defeats the nuances that Unbreakable set.
I think so. Right. But that is jumping ahead. But I think the bottom line overall is Unbreakable works because it felt appropriate to that time. I think it still holds up to this day because of its performances, because it feels like like I said, it's just a very real movie. It's a cool movie, man. Like, I don't have any sort of reverence from this movie, from my childhood, kind of the way you do, but I can watch, I watched this movie less than a week ago and I can say, yeah, holds up. Bruce Willis giving a shit. I'm down with that. I'm always down with Bruce Willis giving a shit.
Actor. Right.
When he wants to be, it can be. Sam Jackson, also great when he wants to be.
The whole sequence of him getting pushed through the comic book store when he's all depressed as fuck, and he just throws his wheelchair into the fucking rack of comic books and knocks down all the comic books. That's funny. Yeah. I laughed my ass off.
Yeah. So it was cool. And there's also, I think it's common of all of the Shyamalan movies that they're set in Philadelphia or surrounding areas.
Yeah, you were fucking there, man.
So there's the extra element of I'm at the point now because like I lived in like Jacksonville and I'm like, there's nothing that takes place in Jacksonville. Although there was the weird shout out in Deadpool, if you recall that from the first Deadpool, where the TGI Fridays in Deadpool. I swore to God that was they just dubbed that for every major market. But apparently it was actually just Jacksonville. So that was, appreciate it, Ryan Reynolds.
I actually think, not hot take, maybe just a fun fact, I guess. I don't know. I'm still working on my internet vocabulary.
Fun take. Fact.
I think there was a shout out to Jacksonville in the Evil Dead series.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, I saw someone post about that. That's
massively overt reference to Jacksonville. Mm. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, everything's set in Philly.
Yes. So Philly's cool. They had a Temple University shout out, so that was also cool.
Yeah, there wasn't there? Sure was. They were playing football. I had no idea they played football. Anyways,
Division I football. Yes, they do.
Division I?
Yeah. That's like they're legit. They're legit. Temple University is like one of the biggest public schools in Pennsylvania. So
fuck, I had no idea. I think
people are misled by the name. They're like, oh, they're religious. No.
I tell you what, they have the Citadel Library. I have never seen a library as big as Temple University's library. It's the biggest. It's the most books I've ever seen in one place. It was extraordinary. Multi floors worth of books.
You haven't even seen most of the regular campus. That's where the bulk of everything is. So
I saw that fucking library. That was enough. Anyways,
yeah. Let's jump into Split. Let's split off from Unbreakable into Split. Oh, hilarious. This came out far more recently, January 20th of 2017. Also written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Stars James McAvoy, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Betty Buckley. In this, a man with 23 different personalities kidnaps 3 teenage girls who must escape before the emergence of a sinister 24th personality. So, I can't remember. I know you watched/rewatched this. Did you see this when it came out around that time, or was it your first time watching it when you watched it now in preparation for Glass coming out?
Correct. Yeah, that's it. Okay. It's the first time.
So we're on the same boat where neither of us saw Split when it came out. I'd always heard that it was like surprisingly solid because this is. You got to think about this. 17 years have passed since Unbreakable. M. Night Shyamalan has had. He's in the toilet for a while. He makes The Last Airbender and whatever, The Happening, and all that other dog shit that he put out for a few years there. Lady in the Water. Lady in the Water, I think, was probably the beginning of the end for him.
Where the guy worked out half of his body.
Yeah. The Village. There was cracks in the facade, let's put it that way, and then it just it split. Pun intended on that one as well. Exactly. And I think he did The Visit, and then I think Split was after that. So it was kind of like the Shyamalan sense kind of happened for a bit of time there. Say that 3 times fast.
I can't even say it once.
Yep, can't even say it once. I had a point. So yes, Split was kind of this, all right, this is the next chapter. Shyamalan's back. He's doing his own thing. And as you mentioned, it's the stealth sequel to Unbreakable, which of course no one knows that until literally the tail end of the movie. But it got pretty good reviews overall. people praised McAvoy for his performance, and people thought, this was like, hey, this is like a pretty refreshing kind of horror-esque kind of movie, done pretty well. And I want to know if you feel
I didn't care for that
that's
movie.
accurate.
I didn't care for that movie. No, I didn't care for it a whole lot, actually. I could see why people gravitated towards it, like much like they gravitate towards a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies. Like if you talk to people, I feel like the general reception of M. Night Shyamalan movies is well regarded. You know what I mean? Like just the people I've talked to. Like people like The Village. I don't like The Village. I think The Village is fucking stupid.
I mean, they're wrong, but okay, we'll go with it.
Yeah, Zephyr Hills, I mean, But anyways, yeah, so a lot of people like Split. I don't care for Split personally. I mean, I'll watch it, I guess. I'd watch it again. I wouldn't be pissed off if I had to watch it. But I feel like it's an injustice to put it next to Unbreakable. Like it does Unbreakable an injustice making the sequel, I think. Much like we were talking about, I think it uproots some of the principal things of that Unbreakable put forward. It just feels kind of stupid. I just think it's a stupid movie. I don't care for it. Is that too much to say? I just think it's stupid.
I mean, you're entitled to your opinion.
That's my opinion. I just think it's a stupid movie. That's all.
I don't think... I think this is worse than Unbreakable, but I don't really think it's that worse, honestly. I enjoyed this. I thought it was mostly solid. I think it's inconsistent. I think there's elements in this movie that should have been stripped away, namely the psychologist character, who was a complete waste of space in this fucking movie. I think you could have dropped that whole storyline, made it a lot more focused on...
just this guy losing his shit, being crazy.
Yeah, the horde, and I think I think you could literally set this entire movie outside of maybe the beginning and the end sequence in that one area, and his
like a 10 Cloverfield Lane kind of situation.
Yeah, you isolate it in that one thing instead of kind of cutting to the Kevin or whoever personality coming out. Like I think it would have made a tighter experience. I think I understood the thing of it where, and I have this issue with pretty much all of Shyamalan's work. I think Unbreakable kind of escaped it for the most part. He's a very expository kind of man. He loves to tell you everything instead of just showing you and letting you feel the moments. He's like, and then this happened, but it's a character telling you that. It's not like you're just seeing that. It's just like, remember this? Like this is the thing that's happening. So the psychologist character very much felt like that through and through of like, this is what's happening. This is what could happen. It's like, yeah, we get it. Like you don't. I think with a tighter script, God forbid someone looked at a script and actually did something else with it. I think you could have tightened this experience into something actually really pretty awesome. I think as it stands,
I think the performance was good.
Absolutely. I think from a performance standpoint, this is
it's noteworthy. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, James McAvoy crushes this role. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Split, I think he only embodies only quote unquote only embodies like 7 of the personalities of the purported 23. But it's one of those things, I think, and this is true of Glass as well, somewhat jumping ahead again. You can understand, you could just see from his body language, from his mannerisms, you can look at that and perceive of oh, this is Dennis. Oh, this is Miss Patricia.
Right.
Oh, this is Hedwig. And I think that's a testament to his capabilities as an actor, and especially, I've always enjoyed James McAvoy, but I think he's particularly good here, and I think it's a strength of his acting that you can just look at him and just on a dime kind of just figure out
who it is.
This is that. This is the other thing.
That's the thing. I think that's the most noteworthy thing about the movie. I think it's the only noteworthy thing about the movie.
He's kind of a one-man show here, and by design, in the sense that if there wasn't that separation in the personalities, the whole fundamental concept of this movie doesn't work. But he absolutely nailed it. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway for the movie is it works because at least for me, it worked because of his performance overall. And I felt, like I said, I think aside from the parts where I'm just like, okay, we can skip over this shit. This is dumb. I don't care about this. I felt like the actual scenes with him, with Casey, Anya Taylor-Joy, who's great in this as well, and the other girls, I thought that was all really well done. I would have appreciated a whole movie of just that.
Right.
I think that would have been better. So, like I said, I concede this is worse than Unbreakable, but I thought this was pretty solid. I thought it was,
I thought the story was just a whole lot better, a whole lot more solid of a, like, what was the purpose of him kidnapping the girls in Split?
Yeah, he's feeding the beast, which I don't know exactly what the logic behind that is, other than the beast is just an asshole.
He just wants to eat people?
Yeah.
Is he a cannibal? Is that what he is? Do we even know if he's a cannibal? But then we're going to save the girl at the end, like, I'm not hungry, like, I'm a beast and I'm not hungry. I'll save you because you're a broken person like me because your uncle raped you or whatever. Like, I don't know. I felt that was where Unbreakable was a very simple story. It felt like a very authentic, true story, I just didn't quite connect with everything.
I see what you're saying. Split's definitely like a little more out there.
Right.
Like and I feel like the Horde is... Yeah, I see the superhuman aspects of that much more so than the other two.
It's not even that. Like, I mean, I could totally understand, like, I could see what he's going for. Sure, I can see it, and the performance was top notch. But I think that there was a lot more. To be. I don't know. I just think there were, like, loose connections that required a lot of grasping for straws. You know what I'm saying? Under the premise that you made. That's my opinion. Like I said, the feeding of the beast. I'm gonna kidnap Kevin's gonna kidnap these girls and to feed them to this thing that he thinks is the higher evolution, maybe. But the higher evolution says that this girl's not worth. Like, I'm not gonna eat this girl. I don't know. It was okay.
I feel like the general premise isn't. I mean,
maybe I missed it.
The beast is. Those who have never suffered are the ones that are worthy of his wrath, because I think I guess this is somewhat jumping ahead in some ways too, but the trauma that Kevin experiences births the beast in some ways, and so it's kind of just him lashing back out at the world. I think the beast is just this ball of unrestrained rage against things that are good and innocent and stuff like that. I think Shyamalan kind of frames this as the supervillain origin story, is the way he looked at it. And I think it makes sense from that perspective, in the sense that
it's totally all right.
His perspective is wrong because he's the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, but there's still,
there's
what he sees in Casey
there,
is
right.
That, wait, she's like me. She's quote unquote broken like me. So I liked that moment. I thought it was good. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to really sympathize with the beast or anything like that, but you can certainly sympathize with the fact that it's a person that's gone through a lot of shit in his life, which is,
and he's broken. Right.
Kind of there's bits and pieces of that kind of throughout Split itself. So anyway, just to kind of wrap this all up, post credits, sort of, I guess, post title card scene very firmly establishes that this is part of the Unbreakable universe. We see the return of David Dunn. As they've given Kevin the moniker of the Horde, and I mean, I obviously with the Glass trailer, it's not any surprise that these are two movies as part of the same universe. But I have to, as part of the whole stealth sequel thing, I think it would have been pretty mind blowing to, like, watch this movie not knowing any of that, see that fucking scene, and if you're a big Unbreakable fanboy, I could see you losing your shit. You know what I mean? Like, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I just really like the first movie. I just really like Unbreakable. I don't really have an affinity for, hey, what if this was part of a larger thing? I don't have that. I really like that first movie. I don't know what it is. Does it make sense? I don't know what it
that's
is.
fair.
I just really like. I really like that. I really like whatever that movie brought. Just cool. You have Split. Split brought with it good performances. Good with that. But it's not my. It's definitely. I think it's a good step down from Unbreakable, and I don't care to have that connection. That's my personal take on Split.
All right,
Moving forward to Glass, we get even more.
My personal take is I disagree. I think that there's very little separation between the two, but
maybe that's
just the way.
Nostalgia. Maybe that's nostalgia.
I mean, maybe
creeping up on my
like
shit.
Like I said, I don't have nostalgia for obviously either of these things. So like I said, and honestly, I guess probably part of it too, and you could probably factor nostalgia into that, is I look at them through the same lens of just okay, these are mostly me watching them for the first time, and I understand them to be part of this bigger picture. And that bigger picture is completed by Glass, which was written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. Brings back much of the principal cast from both Unbreakable and Split in the form of James McAvoy, Bruce Willis, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Samuel L. Jackson, alongside newcomer Sarah Paulson. 3 people claiming to possess superhuman abilities are institutionalized together, forcing them to confront the possibility that their beliefs are mere delusions. Oh.
And you see the return of Bruce Willis's kid, which I thought was a outstanding little touch. Is he in stuff still?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay,
yeah, he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Was he really?
A season or two ago. Yeah, he was.
He was the shithead.
He was the Strucker kid.
Yeah, that fucking asshole. I remember now. Anyways, so when he popped up, I'm like, hey, that's really cool.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
because
that's like a fucking 18-year jump.
Yeah, well, I think it's rare for kid actors to continue actually working for that length of time, but he's been booking roles pretty much since the time of Unbreakable. So, yeah, that was a good piece of continuity there. There's also M. Night Shyamalan makes a cameo in all 3 movies, and apparently those are all intended to be the same character. Yeah, which is
like
another
he references, hey, weren't you you used to work at the fucking football stadium? He's like, yeah. And he's like, I don't. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I enjoyed the kid though. I was actually really impressed with the kid when I saw the kid.
That was cool. Yeah. Stock box office very briefly. $40.3 million domestic opening for this. Sits at $73.4 million domestically in total to date through a couple weekends worth. $162.8 million worldwide. Good for number 1 for 2 straight weekends. It beat out the likes of The Kid Who Would Be King, which I know upsets you greatly, but apparently that movie is pretty good. And actually, this is just a side note. We're not going to cover it. It's directed by Joe Cornish, who did Attack the Block, which surprised the hell out of me. But maybe that explains why it's good.
What's he directed?
Attack the Block.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
so yeah, and then apparently Serenity is horrible with one of the most bonkers endings possible. I don't know what the ending is. I've been so tempted to look it up.
That's the one where the people go out on the boat in the trailer, right?
Yeah. So I kind of want to watch it because apparently it's horrible and one of the most ridiculous movies in a long time. So I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why, but like I want to find out, but not. I don't know. I'll see it maybe at some point. Anyway, let's talk some Glass. What'd you think?
I thought this movie was kind of stupid.
It's kind of... it felt more in line... Well, I don't know. It was interesting because it very much feels like a combination of Unbreakable and Split, but then it kind of goes off the rails at some point, I felt.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Did you feel the same way? Like, were you enjoying this for any portion of the movie, or was it kind of this is just real dumb from square one?
I tell you what, they
and bear in mind this is non-spoilers for everyone.
Section.
So.
I think the first 15 minutes of the film, I'm pretty interested.
Okay.
They very much follow the trajectory of Mr. Dunn and what he's up to and what he's doing, right? And he runs a security shop. That's not spoilers. That's like the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and he's just, he's him and his son have since grappled with the idea of him having abnormal abilities, right? And how he can make a difference and use those abilities. And on the news, there's obviously some people missing, which is in the trailer. It's also not spoilers. There's some teenage girls missing, and you know they're trying to do that. They're doing their thing. They've done it before. They're continuing to do it. Where this thing really gets off, I think him on his own, it feels like a very simple thing. I don't know why I feel like it's simple, but it does feel like a simple thing, you know? But when you start diving into it more, I feel like it just starts to get a little bit more bonkers, and I feel like it starts to get a bit, especially at the end. I think it's just like, I really didn't need all this shit, man. I just want to, I really don't need it. I still feel like Mr. Glass is an applicable villain. I feel like he feels pretty solid for a villain for Dunn. I feel like that feels like a realistic thing. Like, what's his powers? Okay, his bones break. He's not but he's obviously a very twisted individual, and he's smart, you know what I mean? Much in the way that Dunn appears to be in the first movie, just a strong dude who doesn't swim very well, you know what I mean? I think those two things are very simple. I think where it gets crazy is I feel like the Split character, Kevin, is his name Kevin? No, his name's not Kevin. What's his real name?
Kevin's his the body, the original host of the body is Kevin.
Okay. I feel like Kevin's character is I feel like that's where he kind of things get a little bit loose and crazy, you know? Like they end up teaming up, which is in the trailer, so very in a very in a believable way, you know. Mr. Glass latches on to Kevin's character and uses him as the muscle that he doesn't have, right? Manipulates him and gets him to do things that he needs him to do. So, I mean, I guess it's a believable thing. It feels grounded, I guess, but it just, maybe it's the execution. I don't know. I feel like it peaked out within the first 15 minutes, and then it was just a slow downgrade from there. Not to say that it was terrible. It's definitely not the worst movie I've ever seen. But I just didn't connect well with a vast majority of the characters in this movie. That's my hot take. What's your opinion on this one?
I feel like we probably end around the same point. But I think I disagree with your overall assessment of it. I don't really have issues with the integration of the Split character. I think it's when it moves beyond what we've already established in the previous films and moves into something a little bit different. That's where the movie kind of lost me. So I kind of ended in a spot where, I enjoyed. I would say I probably enjoyed 2/3 of the movie, not just the first 15 minutes. I found most of it pretty solid, pretty well done. I felt the third act was kind of where it lost me. And so by the end, I was kind of just like, all right, okay. I would prefer a movie to end strong and start weak as opposed to the opposite, because it kind of just leaves you with this deflated feeling walking out. And that's kind of where I ended up, where I'm just like, as something that's purported to be this conclusion to a trilogy 20 years in the making or whatever, whether or not that's actually the case, whether or not Shyamalan just had this brilliant idea a few years ago to be like, hey, what if we did this? That's neither here nor there. It's kind of just one of those things where I don't know. I wish it was a little bit more satisfactory as an ending. I felt that, this will probably be a conversation probably better reserved for spoilers, since we can actually get into what the ending actually is and how that applies here. But I just felt it wasn't totally satisfactory as kind of, and again, I just kind of go back to what I was saying before. I see this, I kind of viewed all three movies as part of this bigger picture. And so when I see Glass, and I'm like, this is the third act, this is the turn, of this trilogy, this is when the big things happen or whatever, and this is kind of what I'm supposed to be left with, and I kind of felt like as a conclusion to that, okay, all right, I saw it yesterday, and I come into today thinking, I don't care. This has left no lasting impact on me whatsoever.
I think my problem is you have Splits made 16 years after Unbreakable, and then you have this 2 years after? 2 years after that?
Yeah.
It's just cash grab. It feels like cash grab to me.
I don't agree with that, but I think that this feels more like a Split sequel than it feels like an Unbreakable sequel.
That's definitely fair. That's definitely fair. And then Unbreakable's thrown in as a, hey, listen, maybe it takes place in the same area.
Like I don't think there's anything incongruous between those two movies, but I think Cash Grab is somewhat cynical in the sense that you yourself have pointed out that these are self-budgeted films, so it's not like a studio saying like that was popular. Let's cram these two things together. It's not a literal cash grab. I don't think in that sense, but I see your point in the sense that if
he says I made a superhero movie in 2000 and we have Marvel going billions and billions of dollars and this, that, and the other, I can continue what I've made. So he makes Split. And it's successful, and then he makes Glass, and presumably it's successful too. Do you have the box numbers off this? Did we talk about it yet?
Did you just disappear for 5 minutes of this conversation?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe my brain checked out. I am.
Yeah. These beers. It's been number one for 2 weekends in a row.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I just didn't care for it. I just don't care for these movies. I just don't care for them. I like the first one. I don't care for this one. I care for this one less than I cared for Split.
Like I said, I think we end at the same point where I think that I don't think there's any question that Unbreakable is the best of the three. I would say Split is the second best, and I think that Glass is the worst.
And I think as you progress in the series, you have to grasp for more straws. I think in order for it just feels like you got the psychiatrist lady. We can't get into spoilers. Like there's so many things I need to dive into spoilers on. Particularly think I saw on Rotten Tomatoes this film's at a 30%.
Yeah, I think it's like 36-ish.
Right.
I don't know what the average rating is. That's a percentage that means nothing as a side note, but
no, it does, but you're right. I do feel like I feel like it's maybe like
if it was a 5 to 6 average rating, I would agree with that assessment. I think anything less than that, it's a 5.1 out of 10. I just looked. I think that's fair.
You're right. That is fair. 30%.
I think that tells you more than a 36% does.
You're right.
And it's a story that I agree with. So I don't know what Split was at, but I personally look at these as probably, I know we don't really usually do number rating schemes, but I see it as a 5, 6, 7 type scale personally.
I see it as a solid 5. Solid 5.
It's like I said, I think there's very little separation between any of these particularly, but I think Unbreakable the Glass is definitely the biggest jump that you'll find in terms of quality. And narratively speaking, as we've established, good luck trying to figure out what the fuck's going on in this movie without seeing Split.
No, that's true. That's definitely true. With any of them, for that matter. I mean, you literally have no connection to any of the characters if you don't have any investment in the movies.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. You have to have investment in the series in order for it to be worth anything. And then when you actually see the movie, is it worth anything? That's the question I pose.
Yeah, and I think just taking a step back, because we've been kind of talking spoilers without actually literally talking spoilers, I think the performances tend to be good here.
That's right.
Bruce Willis is a little underserved by what his role ends up being. I feel like once your 15 minutes that you liked elapsed, then he gets very little to do from that point, and that's disappointing. Mm-hmm. I thought McAvoy was chewing the scenery. We see more of the personalities here, which is cool. I appreciated that. I thought he continued to be stellar in this role.
Yeah, no, he's tour de force for sure.
And then I liked the through line. He talked about the son. I enjoyed that they brought back Casey from Split as well. Mm-hmm. The narrative integration of those characters, questionable. We'll get into it. But I felt like from a cast I thought was good. Sam Jackson, very good. It's surprisingly little play for at least the first half of this movie, but he gets a little bit more to work with towards the back half. I mean, it is a movie called Glass after all. You'd think he'd have some sort of part in it.
Right.
And he does. He does have a bit of it, but I was surprised at how not Glass it felt for a lot of it. So I think that's something to be aware of walking in the door. And I honestly think you can see the budget restrictions. I think there's parts in this where it tries to be superhero-y in terms of like action, combat, and stuff like that, and it felt low budget.
Yeah, felt
goofy. Restrained, intentionally restrained. As like, look how restrained we are, but like, no, that just doesn't look good. Like not even like a subverting type things. I'm just like, no, we get it. You didn't have the money to make a movie that had a tentpole action sequence or whatever, and I felt like that held it back in some ways, even if it was by design or whatever. I see it as a fault personally. So. Yeah, I mean, I think. Let's go ahead and slide into recommendation. Sounds like we need to trend towards spoilers, so that's probably a good time to do it. I'm not going to recommend you see this in theaters. I don't think you are either.
No. I personally, I'll kick it off. I think it's a Blu-ray movie. Pick it up on Blu-ray.
Okay.
Right. I know I sound like I've been super super critical of it. We do agree that you said it's a 5, 6, 7 movie. I say it's a 5 movie. But I think
I think it's a 5 movie. I think I say my 5, 6, 7 in terms of the trilogy itself. I think
fair enough.
You start 7 and you work your way back down to 5.
I do think
Unbreakable maybe 7.5.
I think Unbreakable is a really good movie. If Unbreakable was in theaters, I would recommend you go out and see it in theaters. That'd be me. I really enjoyed Unbreakable.
I agree with that, but I would also recommend Split. So we probably disagree on that.
We would probably disagree on that. But either way, Glass is a movie that I don't recommend you see in theaters. I think that it's it does not stand on its own merits, which is huge. It's critical. So if you have no investment in the series whatsoever, you're going to walk away with nothing and you're going to be very fucking confused. But
I had some investment. I still walked away very fucking confused. So,
and I think if you have investment in the series, you might not like the direction it goes in. I know I continuously, I started with a movie I really liked, and then as the series continued, I did not like the direction that it went in. I wasn't outright pissed by it or anything else. I was still intrigued, but the decisions that were made were questionable, and that's where I walk away from. So I recommend if you have any investment in the series, that you could watch it at your house on Blu-ray, and I think that's a worthy place to watch it.
Yeah, I mean it's one. I have Unbreakable and Split, which I added to my collection in anticipation of this movie coming out.
And you'll add Glass.
I almost feel like I need to own Glass for the completionist part of my brain, but it's a movie that I will be comfortable owning at some point. But let's just say I'm not going to go out and buy it day one. I'm gonna wait for the bargain bin type. But it's a movie that I think if you look at Rotten Tomatoes and you see 36%, I think that does it a disservice. I think
that's true.
Definitely got some very real issues. I ain't gonna defend it on those grounds, but I think that there is some value with this movie.
James McAvoy makes Split and Glass worth watching.
In some ways, I almost see this as a mirror of Shyamalan's trajectory again. Like he's almost. He had that plateau with Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and then a slow downward hill, and then he came back.
Right.
And then I see Split and Glass falling down the exact same trajectory. Like it's coming. We've had the hill, and we're back down. We're back down again. So we'll see what happens with this next project. But if he makes a Last Airbender 2.0 type project, it wouldn't surprise me based on the current trajectory.
Right.
Blu-ray. We'll go with Blu-ray. It's somewhat generous in some respects, but yeah, it's really not that bad. I wouldn't say. It's just not. Could have been a lot better.
Could have been a lot better.
A lot
right.
better.
Right.
Let's get into spoilers. We've been itching to get into spoilers for a bit now. So full spoilers for Glass. There's a lot of dumb things in this movie.
A lot of dumb things, man. A lot of dumb things.
So I think we obviously have you have issues. It sounds like with the hospital portion of this movie, right?
That's right. Yeah, no, I have issues with that. Sure.
Yeah, I was okay with that. Like it was kind of the whole concept to me. What it reminded me of is Iron Fist, and that was somewhat frustrating in the sense like the beginning. If you got to think back to the first season of Iron Fist, where like we know he has an Iron Fist, and then the doctors are like, "You're just crazy. You don't have an Iron Fist. What are you doing?" And you're like, "No, we know he does." So it's like 3 episodes worth of watching him figure out how to use his fucking fist again. It's kind of the equivalent here, where it's just like, it's not quite that exaggerated in the sense that we know that there are some like the Beast cannot be explained by mere just psychology. Like
his body changes.
I'll give you Mr. Glass. I'll give you Mr. Glass. He's just a smart dude with a bone disease. I'll give you that. David Dunn is harder to explain. I don't think Bruce Willis is in amazing shape, so that he's pulling off these feats of strength is questionable, but adrenaline's a hell of a drug or something like that.
Well, maybe he's like Mr. Incredible.
Doesn't Mr. Incredible have superpowers?
Mr. Incredible, yeah, he's really strong. But he's not in shape.
Yeah, well, that is counterintuitive to my point in the sense that you wouldn't send a psychiatrist to Mr. Incredible and say, "Actually, you're just a human being that has no superpowers whatsoever."
He's like, "Bitch, I'm the best person."
Yeah, you have to tell fucking Elastigirl like, "Oh yeah, you don't have superpowers." Like, bitch, my skin literally stretches as far as I want. Of course I do. Who are you fucking kidding? That's my point with the. If we want to draw this comparison, that's where I would draw the comparison. Is that David Dunn is Mr. Incredible, and you're like, come on, like you're stretching plausibility here, and then she's telling the Beast, like, who is the Elastigirl in this situation, like, you don't have superpowers, and I'm like,
bitch, I can climb up this wall with my toes.
Like, he's literally climbing the walls. He's got like veins popping out and shit, and like no, there's clearly something else going on with the Beast. I don't know that we ever see any. Like, I think anytime it shows, like, Hedwig before it turns into the Beast, I don't know if we get, like, a good shot of McAvoy shirtless to be able to tell, like, I don't know if they intend it to be, like, he's just, like, a regular-looking dude, and then when he turns into the Beast, then he's, like, ripped as fuck, or if he's just generally ripped as fuck. But I don't know exactly, I don't know exactly how that works. My interpretation is that the Beast is just the most ripped version of Kevin possible with the crazy veins and shit like that. I'm like, you can't just literally explain that away of like.
No, I think
delude yourself into thinking that. Like, the whole concept, I think, in and of itself, is pretty ridiculous.
Like, his body composition is supposed to change when he changes his form, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I don't. What really started to get me is when they put him in the room with the lights. When you see those lights, you're going to change. Okay, bitch, I'll close my eyes and walk towards the door.
Maybe it goes through his eyelids.
Okay, I'll walk backwards and walk towards the door. Then he just rips the door open. I mean, what the fuck? That's all I could see every time. It's like, bitch, why don't you turn around? Walk backwards. Problem solved.
Well, clearly their security wasn't very good because Mr. Glass
just cuts that guy's throat.
He tricked them all. Yeah, like, there's a lot of them just, like, standing inside the cells, like, with the door closed, and I'm like, you should just probably have, like, a slit in the door and, like, slide it open and be like, how's it going in there? I'm not coming in there. That seems like a terrible idea. I'm going to stay out here. Here's a little slat that I can put your food under.
The whole premise, See,
I agree with that.
It's just a stupid movie.
I agree with the practicality of it being dumb. I didn't see, and I talked about Iron Fist as a point of, we know that they have powers. Like, as an audience, we've had 2 movies to establish that this is a real thing. And so there's like, even if there's a moment where the characters are like questioning themselves, I'm like, we don't. Like, we know that there's a resolution coming at some point. They're like, oh no, she was lying to us. We do have some real shit going on. And if they pulled some sort of shit, which they didn't, if they pulled some shit of like, oh no, she was right the whole time, it'd be like, well, that makes 3 movies very inconsistent, doesn't it? And so they didn't go that direction because it would have broken, I think, the universe in general. I just found the whole, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's hard for me to buy into this. Like, it just seems like I liked them being in the setting. I liked them kind of being like, all right, lady, we get it. Like, you're trying to treat us because you're making some bullshit up. It was the fact that they started to believe it, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? Like,
well, that was like
so
the whole
much...
thing. I mean, I get that portion of it. Like, that was the portion of Dunn's character. So what made Dunn's character so compelling in the first movie, right?
Well, we got over that. I see it as he got over that, and then there's really not.
He obviously did get over it because now he's out there fighting crime.
But I don't think there's really any moment in this movie where Dunn is really convinced that, like, oh no, I was just deluding myself into this the whole time. Like, there's the moment with the Horde with, I think, Miss Patricia, who's like, she's really questioning her belief in the Beast.
Well, and that I feel like I feel like, see, our problems, I think our problems are diverted. I feel like we have 2 separate problems because I think that portion of it I feel like is acceptable because all the personas are different. They don't share the light at the same time they're doing something, right? So sure. They just they just realize the aftermath after it's done. So, but at the same time, she did know that he was shot. So I don't. It's just all fucking stupid. That's the problem. You can't even have a conversation about it because it's fucking stupid.
Well, I just find it kind of. I don't know. I just find the whole thing kind of hard to square. Where it's just like
it's almost like the water bottles all over the house with the aliens.
Well, clearly, Mr. Glass never bought into their bullshit. He was just playing him the whole time. That was kind of the big thing.
Which is kind of cool.
But I
kind of get that. But what kind of hospital
like
are you
That's
running when you don't know if your fucking people are taking the medicine?
Yeah, it was a very poorly run hospital. I will say.
I did think that he was about to drive the fucking light, the fucking flashlight. I did think that was coming down on his legs. I was like, oh god, I don't want to see his legs break. Oh no!
We got some good crunching later on in the movie, so we can't forget about that.
Yeah, we did.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I just found that like I didn't mind the setting in the hospital. I thought it was inevitable. It was one of those things. Like,
I do get what you're saying though. Like, hey, you got shot. You got shot with that shotgun. Well, there was a lot of moisture under the fucking zoo.
I mean, it's still a shotgun. Like, come on, like that's flimsy. That's fucking flimsy, man. Yeah, so that's kind of where I was like, there's no part of my brain, and I don't think there should be any part of these guys' brains that were like, they're like, oh, wow, you're really right. You've really
shotgun shells.
I really just picked up on the clay on his pants, and I just magically found this factory that I envisioned 3 girls that looked exactly like I envisioned them to be. I'm like, and so moreover, is that I found that preposterous, but at the same time, they did kind of eventually come to the realization, like, no, lady, you're just bullshitting us, which was the case. But she was bullshitting on behalf of some secret society or whatever.
Which gets even fucking crazier.
That to me is where I was lost. That's where the movie lost me.
More fucking straws. More straws. Dude.
I was okay with it until that point on the impression that like they break out and say, now we're gonna say fuck you, we will reveal ourselves to the world and hoorah or whatever, something like that. It was the whole angle of this secret society that's like, oh, we know you're real, but we had to convince you otherwise, because otherwise we'll have to kill you. Which they do. And that's another thing that's very frustrating in and of itself. But the whole angle of the secret society has no founding in this whatsoever, whereas I understand your perspective in the sense that like you go from Unbreakable to Split. It's a departure, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I can see where it loses you. As for someone someone like me that looks at them together, like I accept that these are part of the same thing. I don't. But
they feel very fucking different a little bit, right?
I agree, and they feel. But I found that it was interesting that they felt different by design, and I really enjoyed the first 15 minutes, as I think you did, where they put those 2 elements together. And you have this kind of. Well, I don't know if it quite covers what you liked or not, but I enjoyed the whole idea of Dunn hunting the Horde. Their confrontation in the beginning, I thought that was all fucking cool. I really enjoyed like it was the superhero and the supervillain. They had their very different origin stories. You slap them together, and I was like, "This is cool. This is badass. I like this a lot." and I didn't mind the institutionalization kind of thing, other than the minutia of it, because I felt it was building to this point where they break out, and then you get back to the first act again. You do a big grandeur version of the first act with Mr. Glass in the the conversation mix, as well, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I'm down with that. It's where this like secret society comes in, and we're like, yeah, we can't allow people to know about this guy that's really smart, or this guy that can bench press 350 pounds. Oh my God. What will the world come to if people find out about you?
We drowned him in a goddamn puddle, in a pothole. We drowned him in a pothole.
We'll get to that.
Sorry.
Let me finish my thought.
I'm sorry.
Because that is extremely frustrating too. Superman breaks the world, as I've mentioned. David Dunn does not break the world. The Horde is the closest to breaking the world there is, but DID is a real fucking thing. I don't know the specifics of it enough to tell you if any... I mean, I don't know if there's any component of it that can somewhat alter the physiology of a person. That sounds weird to me, but I don't pretend to understand the intricacies of the brain. I don't think we can have the Beast. I think the Beast is kind of the super version of that, but it's not so far removed. He's just a strong dude that's crazy
and
looking.
Those bars were made in 1835. So
yeah, like he's no real different than David Dunn in that he's a little he's a bit more stronger than a normal person.
They're just tweaked a little bit,
but not incredulously so, where he can fly around and shoot lasers out of his eyes. Like this whole idea of like repressing people from knowing this thing, like none of this breaks the world. If you had a Superman and you wanted to kill him because otherwise you'd have this potential godlike figure that would literally have dominion over the entire Earth if he so chose.
Yeah, kill that motherfucker, please.
Yeah, I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. This is just like, really? That's what you've been up to? You've been hanging out in this restaurant for how long? And so I found that whole angle very ludicrous, which by extension made the whole ending of the movie felt even more ludicrous, where it's like these protagonists. Yeah, and you're like everyone's like looking at their phones. I'm like, oh my God, this guy turned a car over.
And he's running like a fucking dog.
I've never heard of special effects in my life. Like, people, like the way they presented it was just like people just buying this shit hook, line, and sinker. And I'm like, if someone streamed that to my phone, I would think that someone's having a field day in fucking After Effects. You know what I mean? Like, there's no part of my brain that would process that as real immediately. Like, if it was, that, like, that would be okay. That would have to constitute some recalibrating of your idea of the human, genome or whatever. But it wouldn't be this. I don't think it would be this massive earth-shattering thing.
What about the mom?
The way that they presented it.
What about the mom and the son, and the mom of Mr. Glass, who supported all his fucked up shit, holding hands with Dunn's kid at the end?
The whole thing was just so contrived, and I think this comes back to what I said about M. Night being very expository. So there's the moment, they're outside of the hospital and everyone's, ready to, kill each other or whatever. And then Dunn's son comes in and it's just like, wait, I got to explain everything real quick. And so he explains this connection with Kevin's dad to the train that Bruce Willis was on. And I got some, I don't know if you can tell me if you felt the same way, but I got some real strong Martha vibes in that moment.
Martha!
It felt very much like Lois Lane walking in and be like, his mother's name was Martha. Like, it was just like, we have to explain everything right now in case the audience doesn't get it. Like, that was the moment for me. And I'm just like, dude, fuck off. Like, okay, you want to have this whole plot point about Mr. Glass creating everything. He's the mastermind. I created the Horde too. Whatever. Who cares? There's a way to naturally integrate that into the storyline instead of just being like, I have to stop this entire scene so I can explain everything real quick. Okay, proceed. Like, that whole approach to me was just like clunky as shit. Like, that was bad filmmaking right there.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah. No.
And like the whole third act was just bad filmmaking of this.
It was real bad.
Like, hey, here's some asshole, here's some bad over-the-top exposition.
I've been 350 pounds, and I'm going to allow this guy to hold my neck in a fucking pothole. Fuck you,
and then,
dude.
Let's come back to this. David Dunn dies by drowning in a puddle of water. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
It's very it's a very frustrating thing.
You know, like I don't have this amount of reverence for Unbreakable, but I sympathize with you because that's got to be the most frustrating thing in the world to watch this dumbass shit play out before your eyes. Right?
You're gonna drown him in a goddamn puddle. With yeah, that was a thing. So I'm he knocked down a goddamn steel door. So you're telling me that after he swims, he punches a hole in the fucking bucket. He's in that giant bucket full of water, and he breaks the fucking barrier down, and all the water spills out. And he's, oh God, I'm kind of fucking tired from busting that bucket down. Now this guy's gonna come over and hold my head in a fucking pothole, and I can't get up.
And it's just some rando. It's not like fucking the Horde is doing it or something, or Mr. Glass is doing or anything. It's just some rando dude with he's a secret society man doing this, and it's just like, and also I don't fully grasp I understand he doesn't like water. Does he not know how to swim? Is like water? Does it have some sort of? Is it literally kryptonite? In the sense, like water, like does he not shower? I don't understand.
That's exactly the. I was gonna say that exact same fucking thing. Like they put him in the room with a bunch of shower heads. He's like, oh fuck! Look at all these fucking nozzles. Look, what's it gonna do? You know?
Oh no! I'm getting wet.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, I don't understand the
what happens when it rains and he's God. No,
because like in the first one, like I got the impression that he couldn't swim. Like that's why he almost drowned until he kind of got fished out of the water. And Unbreakable, you know, like I get that. It's been 20 years. Dude should probably learn how to swim or something. Like if that's
counteract
the issue,
that shit, right?
Like if that's your 1 week, if that's your kryptonite, like that's a very overcomable type weakness of like I can just have some swimming lessons for a couple of years and I'll be fine.
Overcome your shit, bro.
So I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm victim blaming, but it's a fictional thing. So it's not that far-fetched to just say like, hey dude, like if that was the issue,
get over it.
Take some swimming lessons. And if that wasn't the issue, then what was the issue? Because I don't understand it. Do you smell very bad? How do you bathe otherwise? What's happening here?
What's the deal?
What I need to know.
Yeah.
And so that was narratively extremely disappointing.
Even
as someone that's just kind of, you know, like, oh, it's just this trilogy, I'm taking it as a whole. I'm just like, that was a very fucking underwhelming end to everything, and not even like a gotcha kind of, look how grounded we are. Even the main guy can die from a puddle. Okay, what were you trying to prove? I don't follow any of this.
They wanted more superheroes, and that's what I got from the movie. They wanted to open it up.
I don't know. It didn't work.
Hey, look at that one guy run like a goddamn fucking squirrel.
It was an impressive run.
It was stupid as fuck. Like, how is it even functionally more beneficial to run that way?
Because he's the beast. Can't break the beast, bro.
I don't know. I don't buy into it. I think the whole bit was fucking stupid. He walked through the fucking tunnel so we could see him more. Okay. You know, he took the thing out of the laser gun so I wouldn't zap his brain.
What was that about, too?
I don't know what the fuck that was about.
What was that? What was that thing supposed to do? You're like, we're going to get rid of the superpowered you, but you're still going to be you. What?
But
How?
With him, he's just fucking smart. What are you going to do?
What are you
make him?
Like, what are you going to do? Like, what? You're going to...
It's stupid. The fucking movie is very, very stupid.
You're going to be dumb. Like, are you just lobotomizing him? Is that what's happening? I don't understand.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
This movie needed a little bit more time and in development, I think.
That's where I think that's where I see, hey, we've got these potential superhero things. We can make a little bit of money. I can self-fund this shit because maybe I need to self-fund it because people won't give me any more money because I don't really make the best movies. So I'm going to fund it. and I think I'll have a potential cash grab. And it was a cash grab because you have a really good. I think it's based on the fact that you have 3 very good actors, because the acting in the movie was not the problem. Right? I mean, the acting.
I agree.
The acting was, I mean, awesome. It was very good. But it's just like, God damn, this shit's stupid.
Yeah, I know, and I do see your point. And I honestly think that this is M. Night's vision for his trilogy. I just think it happens to be a vision that isn't going to be satisfactory to most, wasn't satisfactory for us, and unfortunately it's what we're left with. So disappointing conclusion, I think, to the East Side, whatever it's
East
called,
177,
trilogy.
whatever the fuck my fun fact was, I can't remember now because it was stupid.
I don't say exactly. Except there's a reason this episode is not called that, because I can't even remember it for the purposes of this literal episode. So, you have any last minute thoughts on Glass? You ready to call it there?
I'll call it.
Yeah,
that's it.
We just shit on it for a good period of time. Again, it's not the worst. It's thoroughly mediocre. It's just, it feels like wasted potential, I think, more than just something that's just so vapid that it's unwatchable. It just is like this. I think I personally think with some tinkering here and there, mostly in the third act, I think you could have turned this into something that was on par, if nothing else, with Split. You know, I don't think that's so high a bar to meet, but it's what we got.
It's what we got. It's what else are we gonna get? That's it.
What have you been up to?
So
lately,
I tried to watch Polar. I tried to watch it once. I watched the first.
Tried. Yeah, I tried it. Okay, hold on. Did you fall asleep, or was it so bad that you could not continue watching?
I turned it off. Meaning I watched 10 minutes or whatever. There's a first little intro sequence. I turned it off after that intro sequence. I said, fuck it. It's got Maz, and I haven't even seen Maz yet. I have to see him. And I got to him. I was like, all right, yeah, fuck yeah. He's a pretty cool guy. I think he's a pretty cool dude. He's got some swagger. I'll watch it. So I watch it. And I've got 30 minutes left. I turned it off again. I was like, fuck, this shit's so stupid. I turned it off and I went to bed. Mainly because I couldn't fall asleep with the TV on because I took a nap before. So I needed to turn it off in order to go to sleep, in order to go to work the next day, which was last night. And I intend to watch the last 30 minutes tonight.
Okay, so you haven't finished it yet. Okay.
I haven't finished yet. It's fucking terrible, by the way. It's very bad. It's very bad. Well. I actually kind of get got a Smoking Aces. Remember Smoking Aces?
Yeah.
Vaguely. I kind of got that, it's kind of got that vibe where it introduces... I
don't recall that one being terrible, but...
No, it was good. Smoking Aces was good. It kind of like ripped on that vibe, though.
This is the corollary to that. It's the bad version of that.
Yeah, where they kind of like, hey, listen, there's Assassin A, there's Assassin B. They're all badasses, and it's got a lot of quirkiness and character and shit, but it's all really fucking stupid and bad. That's what this is. Although Mads Mikkelsen's pretty fucking good in it. I kind of like Mads Mikkelsen. He's a pretty good actor.
That's cool. Yeah.
But it's not enough to carry the movie. It's like he's swimming upstream.
Yeah,
way the fuck upstream.
I think based on your recommendation from most of the movie, I will not fast track.
Yeah, no, there's a lot better things that should be on your list. Right. So I don't recommend you watch it, but I'm going to watch it because I'm like an hour and a half invested. So
you're committed. Yeah.
So I'll finish that tonight. I also I made an unnecessary purchase. Because I'm pretty broke right now, but I purchased Resident Evil 2. Got a little
Resident Evil.
That's right. And I can tell you, I'm like, I played an hour last night, and I was kind of I can watch any horror movie throw at me, no problem.
You were scared.
Scared, but boy. I played an hour last night. I had to play it in black and white because I'm a bitch.
Well, at least you admit to it.
Yeah, and so I'm working my way through that. It appears to be a very, very, very good video game. I would like it to play with another person in the house so I don't feel like such a bitch. I feel like if I played with somebody else, it'd be much better, easier, perhaps.
Well, if I was closer, I'd volunteer.
Yay,
I want to play it too,
but anyways, really cool game. Really into it. I will beat this game. I spent $60 on it. I will play through it. I will beat it, even if it's an hour at the most. Even if it's through hour increments. I played an hour last night, got to a happy place, and I cut it off. I'm not playing apparently hardcore mode or hard mode or whatever has limited slaves. Like you have to find items in order to let you save.
Okay.
That's not the case in my play mode, so anytime I get the opportunity to save, I'm fucking saving. I find that typewriter, but it appears to be a stupendous game. What little bit I've played, it's been very good.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's like RE4, picture RE4, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it very much feels in that vein, which is pretty cool.
It's something I intend to purchase at some point, but
it is fucking beautiful, by the way.
I know I won't play it immediately, so I can't. There's no way I could spend $60 on it. But you're playing it, so you at least feel committed to getting your money's worth, even if it was somewhat of an irresponsible financial decision.
Apparently, you beat fucking story mode in fucking Smash Bros. You could be playing it.
Well, I've got some other things I'm trying to work through, but do you have anything else before I jump into my stuff?
Oh yeah, I finished Punisher.
Okay, well,
that's a kind of a small. Oh yeah, I finished the series.
Well, I mean, there's a very specific reason that you finished that. Oh well, there's probably multiple reasons. I'm sure you would have watched it regardless.
The first reason is because Punisher's fucking great.
Right.
Second reason is because maybe we will be covering it. But
maybe.
Punisher, I finished it, so that's done.
All right. Well, we can confirm that you finished it. I can confirm that I have not finished it, but I have, I believe, 5 to go. I have
you got a good
5 episodes to go.
Right,
so yeah, but I've got some time. Anything else? Anything else you'd like to speak about?
I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I've been doing. Yeah.
Well, you touched on something already. I have, in fact, beaten the World of Light single-player mode of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Damn.
Took me just under 31 hours, which is it's a pretty long single-player mode for a fucking Smash Bros. Game, I would say. I've been working at it for a month and a half now, so it's not like I spent all that time in a week or anything like that. The ending was really cool. It's a pretty standard fare type single player. I think you've put a good chunk of time into it yourself, but yeah, the ending was really cool. I have 100%ed it, which is there's a true ending that you can get. It's not very hard to figure out how to get it, but it's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things. If you get one of the other endings, it's very obvious, and I think it actually dumps you right back out to be like, nope, try again. So it's kind of designed in a way that you can figure out what you're actually supposed to do. But the way they designed the actual last sequence was really cool. So I mean, it's Smash Brothers. I love Smash Brothers. It's a super fun game. I've had a ton of fun playing it.
I heard that you went over to a party to play, to hang out, and you ended up playing hours of Smash Brothers instead. Like you just got sucked back in. Henry told me that.
That's not accurate, but is that actually what he told you?
No, he told me that you came over and you just played a lot of Smash Bros. That's what he said, and I said, "Fuck yeah, it's Smash Bros."
Yeah, no, we played for a bit. Henry, so I can call him out. He bailed. He's just like, I'm going to take a break. Never came back. That dickhead.
And what'd you do?
I just kept playing. There were some other people there that were playing. What am I supposed to do? I just played until they left. Then I was like, well, I guess it's time for me to go home then. So
did you keep playing after maybe it was your time to leave? No.
He
does have a fucking. Did you play it in the basement?
No, it was on his just TV.
Fuck that. You got to play it in the basement. Basement's where I would live.
So, yeah. But Smash Bros, it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with single player. I think Piranha Plant comes out sometime next month, so that'll be cool.
You all about it?
And, and I already bought the Fighters Pack for the DLC, so I'm invested in Smash Bros for a good amount of time.
110% into Smash Bros. Right.
But I am going to try to rotate it out and play some other things. I want to do the Spider-Man DLC, finish that up since it's all out now. Still very slowly working my way through the first Red Dead Redemption so I can eventually play the second one. So I think that's kind of what I have. I need to finish Octopath Traveler. I was just like, I have a JRPG itch, but I'm like, shit, I'm like halfway through one. I should probably finish that. So anyway, those are the reasons I know I will not be purchasing Resident Evil 2 in the near future, because I'm just like, there's a lot of stuff that I want to do.
See, RE2 feels like it might be like a short, like I feel like I should be able to beat that in like 5 hours, right? Surely.
I have no
Maybe
idea
not at my current
so.
bitch pace. Maybe my bitch pace is going to hinder me. 30 hours in Resident Evil. I don't know.
Video games aside, the only thing I've been watching, aside from The Punisher, as we've established, is Conan Without Borders, which actually, we coincidentally talked about it on our 2019 episode when we were talking about Conan coming back for his half-hour show. You were like, you mentioned that you had enjoyed this, and I just had coincidentally actually started watching it on Netflix independently of that prior to us recording that, and I kind of bit my tongue because I was just like, I'm going to talk about it at some point. So I've watched the first 4 episodes. I think there's 6 that they have on Netflix now.
This is so good.
Yeah, it's great. Have you seen Have you seen any of them?
I watched the first like 10, 15 minutes of the first one where he's like, I think he's in Cuba.
He's in Cuba, yeah.
Yeah. And that's about as far as I got.
I will revisit it because I enjoy his comedy. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah. It's kind of been my I go
Jordan
punishing for an hour, and then there's an Italy episode, I think, which is the 5th or 6th, where I think it's Conan and Jordan Schlansky going around and doing their thing, but I don't think he hasn't been any of the first 4 that I've watched.
He's got a good humor in and of himself, but I feel like Jordan's I feel like he's a pretty good component to the Conan show, I think. In my opinion.
No, he has a good dynamic with all of his crew, but for the most part, the ones that I've watched have just been kind of being Conan around the locals. So I think the first one was Cuba. Second one was South Korea, which he did partially with Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead, which was good fun. And there was they referenced there was a YouTuber or whatever it was on a show where he did like a massage type thing with Steven Yeun. I don't know if you ever saw that.
No, I never saw it.
That was funny.
Good,
that was pretty good. So South Korea was the second one. That was fun. The third one was Mexico.
Okay.
And that was like a more traditional late night type thing, but just hosted in Mexico City and had Diego Luna on it. It was more, like I said, the structure was he had the monologue and everything. And so I enjoyed that one less, not because it was from Mexico or set in Mexico, but I think Conan is just better when it's just him just being weird around people.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that one was more kind of traditional interview and, whatever type structure. And then the fourth one is Israel and Palestine. That one was good because there was a few moments where, it got a little bit heavier because of the nature of that conflict over there.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So, but, there was still obviously moments of humor in it because it's traditional Conan and whatnot, but it was good. I think Italy's another one, and I think the other one might be Armenia because I think his assistant Sona, she's Armenian, so I think
it's like a whole office setting. Like I feel.
Well, so I listened to his podcast, and I think there was a reference to her like being, or maybe it was one of the YouTube things I watched. I might be conflating them, but. She was very well received in Armenia, so she's like a celebrity in Armenia or something like that now. And Conan was just like, "You were more popular in Armenia than I was. What the fuck is happening?" Like that was, it was a very Conan way of going about things. But
God damn, it's so funny when he talks about Conan Town. You know about Conan Town in Japan?
Yes, yeah, that was great.
I laughed my ass off. It's so funny. Conan, he's a good dude. We should have Conan on the podcast. Do you think we can get Conan on the podcast?
I think his podcast does better numbers than ours, so maybe we can. I can make an appearance on his. That'd be fun.
That'd be good.
You can come too.
Yeah,
like a joint appearance.
Maybe he could do it.
Maybe he could video chat with us as well.
Yeah. Could you imagine Conan over there? Oh my goodness!
Just how much of his hair would have to? I mean, he'd have to start at the bottom of the frame to fit most of his hair profile in there.
I think it'd be a little starstruck. I think I'd have a hard time having a conversation. I'd be like, "Holy shit!"
Well, I have a few beers. I don't know, man.
Anything's possible. I do become fairly social with the beers, with the brewskis. Anyways,
that is it for this episode. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can do so by heading to watchreviewrepeat.com, our website, clicking the premium tab in the top left, and then clicking the Become a Patron button. $2 a month will get you access to all of our bonus episodes on a timed exclusive basis, as well as early access to all of our regular episodes, such as this one. On the front of bonus episodes, we have the Ballad of Buster Scruggs currently available as a Patreon exclusive. In the future, we'll be undertaking a massive project to rewatch the entire Game of Thrones series prior to the series finale sometime in, I guess, May or June, whenever it comes out. I guess June, something like that. And we might have a little something else in the works as far as bonus episodes. I don't want to... It'll be fun. It'll be fun if we do it, which I think we will, but it'll be fun.
Alrighty then.
Alrighty then. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, let's just say if you don't want to listen to us on Patreon, you would be a who is her?
Oh, that's good.
Twitter, follow us on Twitter at WRRPod. Like us on Facebook. Send us any questions, comments, or suggestions you have. Our Gmail account is watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Next episode, Andrew's finished it. I haven't, but I will finish it in time to record on Marvel's The Punisher Season 2. Is it going to be the last season of The Punisher? Maybe we'll have an announcement on that front by the time we record. We'll have a few days. We'll probably record. It'll be out next week. I think we're going to try to get back to a semi-weekly type schedule. It's been a very busy January in terms of episode releases, just because we were playing catch up, and then I think we're pretty much caught up now, so we should be maintaining a semi-regular schedule from this point on. But you can expect that Punisher will be the next one up, so look forward to that. Until then, hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and Andrew will see you at the door.
Ladies on the Minjay.